Hi and welcome back. So in this video we're going to try to avoid needing the user to type any code. However, in the last video I did mention that the user would not need to type any code at all, and I may have over-exaggerated slightly at this stage. We will be creating applications that the user can run, of course, without having to type anything. However, at this stage we're not going to go that far, simply because it's not really necessary for the purpose of this section. However, what we are going to do is to make sure that the program can run in one go without having to interact with the development environment during the program. And what I mean with this is we won't be able, but we won't need to define variables and things like that while the program is running. So, to recap, what we're doing here is ask the user for their age and then multiplying their age by a few numbers and then giving them the age in seconds back. So we have a line of code that is the input. Then we convert that to an integer and multiply it, and then we print that out. So these three lines of code can be executed one after another as long as the user gives us their age. If we want to execute something sequentially, one thing after another, we can put the three lines under one name and create a method that will contain those three lines and execute them one after another. In order to do that, we have to define a new method that contains those three lines. And in order to do that, we use the def keyword. This def keyword is for defining a method. And this method is going to be called age in seconds, and we simply say def age in seconds, opening and closing bracket, and then a colon, and notice how Python, or rather the Python shell, instantly puts the next line under the method name and does not give us the three crocodile clips. So what we'll do is say user age equals input, enter your age, as we saw in the last video, then press enter, and notice that nothing happens, but we get another line to type our method in. And then we can say age seconds equals int user age times 365 times 24 times 60 times 60, and now we've had the age in seconds. And finally what we do is simply print you have lived 4 seconds, format age seconds, and then we print that. And now the only thing we have to do is call this age in seconds method, like so. Then when we call that, the first line will start executing and it will ask us for our age as we've defined above. And then it'll just give us the number of seconds we've lived for. So it'll get our age, put it in user age, then multiply it by these numbers, store it in age seconds, and finally print it out. And this is how we can avoid, or rather simplify our program and avoid having to create variables and do things like that. So this is a way to simplify it, but of course later on in the course we'll be looking at creating full-blown applications that the user doesn't have to type anything in for sure. But until then, let's leave it as this, and I'll see you in the very next video where we're going to introduce the if, elif, and else commands. So I'll see you there. Hi and welcome back. So in this video we're going to be looking at the if, elif, and else keywords. And these keywords are going to let us control the flow of the program, i.e. what does the program do when it encounters a situation where it should be able to decide between two different paths. For example, let's say we've got a chair that has a price of $100 or £100. If the chair is less than £100, we want to buy the chair, and if it is £100 or more, we want to tell the user to not buy it. So Python is quite easy to understand in the way that it does this. There is no need for any brackets or anything like that. Simply say if, notice how it goes on orange because it is a keyword, if the price is less than 100, and then notice how the Python shell, the IDLE, already expects us to type more things. Then we'll say buy the chair. And now we could continue telling the user things to do if the price is less than 100, or we can press backspace, and that brings us to the beginning of the line, and here we can type else for what to do if the price is 100 or more. So if the price is not less than 100, we'll print don't buy the chair. And then if we press enter again, this will terminate the writing or the typing, and it will give us the output, which in this case is don't buy the chair, because indeed the price is not less than 100. It is exactly 100. Now let's say that if the price is exactly 100, we want to tell the user that they can buy it if they really want. If it is more than 100, we will tell them to not buy the chair, and if it is less than 100, we'll tell them to buy the chair. So once again, if price is less than 100, we'll print out buy the chair. Now press backspace and type elif. This means else if the price is equal to 100. Notice how there are two equal signs here, as that means that we're checking the price is equal to 100. If there was only one equal sign, this would be assigning the value 100 to price, and we wouldn't want to do that in this case. That wouldn't make sense. So price equals 100 checks that the price is equal to 100. Then we'll print you can buy if you really want. And finally, else print don't buy the chair. And now price equal 100, so we should see that we can buy the chair if we really want. So what I'm going to do is press enter and then enter again, and indeed it tells us that we can buy it if we really want to. So how can we apply this to our program? Well, let's, for example, extend our age program so that the user can decide whether they want to convert from years to seconds or from seconds to years. So let's define our method, age program in this case, and then get the user input. It's going to be seconds or years equals input give me seconds or years. Now this is not a particularly understandable question, but let's assume the user knows to type S if they want to give us seconds, or years if they want to give us years. Obviously if they give us years, we'll convert to seconds. If they give us seconds, we'll convert to years. And I will say if seconds or years equal S, then we will convert seconds to years. Notice that any line that starts with a hash symbol is a comment that does not get executed by Python. It's simply for us to read and us to be able to then understand what the code does. They're completely optional, you don't have to put them in there, and they don't do anything. They're simply for you to read. Okay, so now we can enter the value. So like so, enter the number of seconds you've lived for, and then that is going to go into user value. And then we can print out you've lived for years. Format the number of seconds int user value. And now we have to multiply these number of seconds, or rather divide by the appropriate number, which is divided by 60, divided by 60, divided by 24, divided by 365. I'm actually not entirely sure that is correct. 60 seconds, 60 minutes, 24 hours, 365 days. That should be fine. Okay. And forgot the other bracket. Okay. And now we press backspace and say elif seconds or years equals y. And now I would recommend pausing the video and attempting to create this part of the program by yourselves. How would you convert from years to seconds? We've done this previously, so it should be fairly simple for you to proceed with this. Once you've completed it, resume and we'll go through it. Okay, so we're going to convert from years to seconds, and now user value is going to be an input, enter the number of years you've lived for, and then we're going to print you've lived for seconds. Format int user value multiplied by 365 multiplied by 24 multiplied by 60 multiplied by 60. And this should convert the number of years that they've given us into seconds and then print that out. Okay, so let's see what happens when we call and execute this method. So do we want to give seconds or years? Let's go for years. And then number of years, go 50, and then it gives me the appropriate number. So I'm going to copy that and paste it, and I'll give them seconds. And I'm going to give them this number here. And it tells us we've lived for 50.0 years. And notice how this is an interesting number that we've got here. We've got a number with a decimal point as opposed to just 50. This is because when doing division, Python already converts everything to numbers with a decimal point so that it can be more precise when it's calculating. Nothing we should worry about for now, and we could potentially expand the program so that if it is 50.0, it would just print out 50. But that's not something we should worry about right now. So hopefully this explains how to use if, elif, and else. And remember that you can chain more elifs. So you can have if, elif, 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 else. And you can have an unlimited number of elifs inside one of these if statement blocks. And also remember that it is the indentation that matters. So the if and the elif and the else all have to be in the same level of indentation. And similarly, every line that is inside or under the if statement has to be indented more than the if statement. Every line that is under the elif has to be indented more than the elif, or else Python will get confused. Okay, so this was the entirety of this first section, and now we're going to be moving on to the next section after the next couple of videos, where I'm going to explain a small assignment that you can choose to do. So I'll see you in the next video. Hi and welcome back. In this video we're going to be looking at an assignment that you may choose to do for this section. The program is going to be very similar to the age program, but you're going to be developing entirely on your own. Now, it's not going to be a particularly challenging assignment, just something so that you guys can get some more experience doing what we've just studied in this section. So to review first what we've done already, we've looked at variables, strings and integers. Remember, strings are just groups or collections of numbers, letters and symbols, and integers are just whole numbers that have no decimal place. We've looked at the str and int methods. Str converts a number to a string, and int does the opposite. We've looked at the print and the format methods. The print takes in a string and prints it out to the user. The format is applied on a string and can substitute placeholders for variables. We've also looked at the input method, which asks the user a question and allows us to get a value back and assign it to a variable. And we've also looked at defining our own methods. Finally, we looked at the if, elif and else keywords that let us split the flow of the program depending on one or more conditions. So here's your challenge, your assignment. Create another program that will create a variable that holds a magic number between 0 and 10, or indeed any range that you want. Then tell the user to pick a number between 0 and 10, and if the user picks the right number, tell them they've won, and if not, tell them to run the program again. A fairly simple, lottery-like program that nevertheless will use nearly all of the concepts that we've studied in this section. In addition, if you create the program as a method, or indeed multiple methods, that would be even better. So good luck, and I'll see you in the next section.